Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Midwest Region Get EVAL Certified webinar. This webinar is sponsored in partnership with Fourth and Best Workplaces for Commuters. My name is Phil Winters. I'm today's moderator, and our guest speaker is Emily Pape with Electrification Coalition. I'll give you more introduction about Emily here shortly. Uh, this is the second in a series of 6 webinars that are scheduled to take place across the United States over the next month. Please note that today's session is being recorded and will be available to you for playback shortly after today's session. Now, the EVAL certification effort is divided into 6 regions of the United States shown on the map in front of you. And today's webinar is targeted to the Midwest region of the country, and the Midwest being defined here as Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Michigan, Missouri, North Dakota, Ohio, and South Dakota. However, if you're from another state, that's fine. You're welcome to stay here today and learn more about the overall program. But we do have upcoming webinars for each region, and more information can be found on bestworkplaces.org/events. Our goal is for the program to be interactive, so we'd really like to address your questions and answers. So please submit one whenever you have one via the Q&A box on the bottom of your screen. We want you to feel confident to pursue this path of becoming an electric vehicle adoption leadership certified, EVAL certified. In a moment, we'll jump into what those details are, but first, here's an overall look of our agenda. As I mentioned, our EVAL partner speaker is Emily Pape with the Electrification Coalition, and I'm Phil Winters with Best Workplaces for Commuters. We encourage you again to type in your questions at any time, and we'll reserve time at the end to provide the answers. So let's talk quickly about the co-sponsors. Best Workplaces for Commuters is in partnership with Fourth is quite synergistic. Supporting EV charging at workplaces aligns well with our Best Workplaces for the Commuters program goal of expanding access to greener commuting choices. BWC is the national authority on recognizing and assisting workplaces to provide exceptional commute benefits. On the screen, you see a breakdown of the types of members we support, including individual employers, universities and colleges, and multi-employer locations. Our program is managed and housed by the Center for Urban Transportation Research at the University of South Florida in Tampa, with support from the Florida Department of Transportation. BWC members receive recognition in the form of a national press release each January, and we help our members who post their own announcements to get more exposure for their efforts. 2024 was a record-breaking year for us with over 700 new members across the U.S. and now Canada. Now, Emily is a senior associate with the Electrification Coalition. Her work focuses on electric vehicle charging infrastructure development and supporting local governments to facilitate widespread electric vehicle adoption. Prior to joining the Electrification Coalition, Emily worked on community efforts in Arctic advocacy in Alaska. Say that 3 times. Policy research with Headwaters Economics in Idaho Policy Institute in Montana and Idaho, and constituent services with Idaho Governor's Office. She holds a master's degree in public policy with a focus on energy and environmental policy from the University of Chicago and a bachelor's degree in global studies from Boise State University. Okay, Emily? Emily, you want to pick up here?
Sure, that sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you, Phil. So just really quickly about the Electrification Coalition, we're very excited that Fourth and Best Workplaces for Commuters are hosting this webinar series. I hope you all are excited about it as well. But my organization, the Electrification Coalition, is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that develops and implements a broad set of strategies to facilitate widespread adoption of electric vehicles, really in order to overcome the economic, public health, and national security challenges that stem from the United States' dependence on oil. And so the EC's strategies in order to do this include policy development, advocacy campaigns, consumer education, fleet electrification, cultivation of bipartisan support, various support for charging infrastructure planning, EV supply chain development, and coalition building. So as you can tell, we kind of do a lot of the time, all with the aim of ending dependence on oil when it comes to transportation. So we work to electrify the way we move through projects and programs like the Electric Freight Consortium, State EV Policy Accelerator, Electrification Coalition Business Council, Climate Mayor's EV Purchasing Collaborative, and EVAL, which I'm here to talk about today. And so this EVAL stands for the Electric Vehicle Adoption Leadership Program. And I'm just really excited to tell you all about this today. So get your questions ready. Let's dive in. So here in the United States, transportation is the single largest source of greenhouse gases. You can see here on this chart, transportation is making up almost 1/3 of all US greenhouse gases emitted here in the US. And so transportation is also unique in the sense that it is the only sector right now out of these ones listed here that has rising emissions. And so it's really critical that we address these emissions at the source and really go after ways to solve this problem. So one way to do that is through electric mobility. And we're really looking to our workplaces to be leaders in this space because it's good for the planet, it's good for reducing emissions, it's also good for employers. So like I said, it reduces emissions by 30 to 90%. Having a commitment to sustainability can really improve your hiring outcomes. Having available EV charging at work can improve your retention and keep those employees around. And you can help your employees save thousands of dollars, which really, again, is all about that employee retention, keeping those folks in your employment because we want them there. They're great people. So within this, when we're talking about electric transportation, charging infrastructure has huge gaps, which we know this, it's in the news all the time. But most metropolitan areas, pictured here on this map, have less than 16% of the workplace charging infrastructure that will be needed to support electrified transportation. And we really see workplaces as key in closing this gap. So why workplaces? Why not grocery stores or gyms or other places like that? First of all, those are workplaces as well. So that's kind of a trick question. But most people spend a lot of time at work, second only to how much time they spend at home. And so we really see that charging at work is the second most preferred option for people who drive EVs. You can see here in this chart, people charge at home, then they charge at work. And then finally, the last part is them charging on the road. However, when you look at this hierarchy, yes, at home it plays a significant role. However, 20% of Americans and a higher percentage of low and moderate income drivers live in buildings that do not have access to like a garage or other off-street parking where they could charge their EV. And so workplace charging can really aim to fill this gap for folks who live in apartment buildings or duplexes or park on the street. And so that's really where it's key right now, especially because 30% of Americans do not have access to home or workplace charging that they may need in the future. So why would you install workplace charging? I know you're all thinking it. But there are benefits to employees and employers, which we already briefly touched on. But you'll increase your access to EV charging for employees, pretty straightforward. Will increase range confidence for employees if they're maybe a little worried about how their EV will do mileage-wise. It can also improve not only your employee retention, but also your recruitment, because potential employees are beginning to consider the availability of EV charging when they're looking for jobs. And if you don't offer it, you might be immediately written off by someone who'd be a great fit for your organization. And finally, installing workplace charging can really align with and enhance your company values. So if you do care about sustainability and you care about reducing emissions, workplace charging is a really nice way to kind of put your money where your mouth is and show that you really are committed to these actions. So like I was alluding to, workplace charging is simply good for the environment. A recent study by Stanford researchers suggested that shifting current EV charging from home to work and night to day could not only cut costs, but also reduce greenhouse gas emissions, improve grid efficiency, and match key charging times with peak solar generation time periods. And so this would really extend beyond your workplace into society and make just workplace charging a general good in a way that you are helping out your broader community. So that brings us to this certificate we've kind of alluded to so far, Electric Vehicle Adoption Leadership, EVAL for short. And EVAL at its core is a certification program that provides technical assistance and recognition to organizations that are actively supporting the adoption of clean transportation. So this certificate is DOE funded, and businesses or other workplaces that have EVAL certification are really showing that they are a place that offer clean transportation options and other opportunities for their staff. EVAL certification, again, is recognizing workplaces for sustainable actions they make. And so this can be a certification that is given all the way from bronze up through platinum. And so what's really nice about this certification is even if you're thinking like, oh, we've planned to put EV chargers in, but we don't have them yet, that's okay. You might not be at that platinum level, but just having the plan, having those conversations with your employees can still earn you an EVAL certification that will further cement your actions moving forward into making sure you offer these options for your employees. So our objectives as a certification moving forward is to really execute a nationwide workplace charging program. And this involves education, outreach, and technical assistant activities to really ignite a large-scale increase in workplace charging. So right now, the numbers we're working toward are more than 2,500 employer commitments to catalyze over 20,000 port installations and to register and certify over 5,000 employers through the EVAL platform. And we're really excited about this because we're already seeing a lot of interest from employers or folks who wanted to implement EV charging but weren't sure how and have really taken advantage of the resources that EVAL offers in order to make that a reality. Like I said, EVAL is DOE funded, but this certification was developed in collaboration with a broad number of industry stakeholders, and that included utilities, other certification bodies like LEED and Best Workplace for Commuters. Thank you to our hosts, as well as municipalities and other private companies. So the Electrification Coalition here is working alongside Fourth, of course, but also Plug in America and EV Noir to make sure that as many folks as possible know about EVAL and feel empowered to get that certification. So you're probably wondering eligibility. So the short answer is, if you are a workplace, which means you have people who go somewhere to do work, you're eligible. So this looks like employers from all industries and sizes, state, local, tribal government entities, community-based organizations and nonprofits, your small businesses, large corporations, kind of all across the board. However, home offices, if you're like me and you work remotely, you can't apply. I'm sorry, your personal charger in the garage isn't going to get you there. And organizations who provide charging only for fleet vehicles, so employees can't use those chargers for their own vehicles, are not eligible. However, most organizations are going to fall into eligibility. So for those of you who are eligible, which I'm guessing is a lot of you, it's a pretty easy certification process. So you're going to start with registering your organization by completing key information. It's an online form. It's a very simple process. You will fill out your application for EVAL certification. This is a certification that is given by site. So if you work for example, a health organization and you have multiple clinics around a city, each clinic will apply for EVAL certification individually. So once you've applied for certification, you can also access a lot of these resources and templates, and those involve how to set up an employee working group and how to establish a company charging policy, those sorts of things. You can also connect with Fourth or other community members for additional support. You can submit your application once you've done all these things. And then finally, you'll receive your certification and get recognition in a variety of ways. So diving into a little bit more of what the certification includes. There are 5 sections that you'll fill out on this online application. And these are employee engagement. So really making sure that you or your workplace has made an effort to understand what the needs of your employees are when it comes to e-mobility. There's also a section on planning and evaluation. So making sure you're not just going in, guns blazing, throwing EV chargers left and right. We really want to make sure that you've done the planning, you've evaluated your workplace charging, and making sure that what you're putting in is a good fit for your organization. There's also a section on e-mobility incentives, so incentivizing that adoption of e-mobility. And as well, of course, a section on EV charging, which is putting EV chargers in, adding more EV chargers if you have them already. And finally, leading with innovation. And so showing the steps that your organization is taking to just demonstrate sustainability leadership and be a leader in your community when it comes to this space. And so as you can tell, EV charging is a very significant part of this, but that doesn't mean if you don't have EV charging, this certification isn't for you. It absolutely is, no matter where you are in the process. EVAL also offers technical assistance, such as webinars about different components of EV charging and related topics, template surveys and forms, like I mentioned, directories of local providers and installers for workplace charging related infrastructure, education resources you can use to inform your employees about what's going on, a program implementation guide, and then best practices on how to implement these things in your workplace. So there's also the recognition and marketing piece. So once you've received your certification, you have access to these benefits, which include exclusive roundtable work group, spotlight on the EVAL website, access to the Fourth Roadmap Conference, a workplace spotlight if you do receive that highest level of platinum, as you can see Climate First Bank in Florida has, as well as a digital badge and signed certificate. So there's a variety of ways you can then put these aspects of recognition into play on your website, at your workplace, that sort of thing. So I know we're wondering about the cost. So it is free to apply and get this certification as long as you do it before November 1st of this year. Following November 1st, a fee will be implemented to certify each new location. However, if you do the certification now, you do not need to recertify, you will not pay a fee, nothing like that. And so we really want to make it as easy as possible for folks to get that certification between now and the end of October. And there is an auditing process just to ensure the integrity of the certification. So there is systematic sampling. So every 100th application, Fourth staff will reach out to request supporting documentation. And after review, the workplace's certification will be confirmed or rescinded if the documentation isn't aligning with what the application demonstrated. We also have a partner program, also DOE funded, called Charge at Work. And Charge at Work is really aiming to help plan for EV charging and providing tools resources, and other technical assistance to make workplace charging a reality. So if you're one of those workplaces where you haven't quite dove into putting chargers in the ground just yet, Charge at Work is fantastic for helping you plan, get your ducks in a row so that you can then go for the EVAL certification. And so they offer things like connecting with federal and local incentive programs, creating a site plan, and identifying which technologies would work best for your organizations, as well as how to gauge interest among your workforce in EVs. Speaking of incentives, I went through and pulled a couple of incentives related to EV charging that are available in the Midwest. And so both Indiana, Michigan Power, and Duke Energy offer a commercial electric vehicle charging station rebate. And so if that's your utility, you can go through them, get some additional money for the installation of those chargers. Illinois, the state of Illinois, offers an electric vehicle charging station grant, and Michigan has a project that's called Charge Up Michigan, and that will also offer additional incentives toward implementing EV charging. The federal government also has several programs that you could take advantage of. Two of them are the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Discretionary Grant Program. That one is about getting chargers in the ground, especially along major corridors. And then there is the Alternative Fuel Vehicle Refueling Property Tax Credit, or 30C, and that is applied to EV chargers and has a variety of amounts of money that you can claim depending on the exact situation. So my organization, the Electrification Coalition, also hosts an EV funding finder that is a fantastic resource to identify funding opportunities for your organization. And Christine just dropped that link in the chat, so feel free to take a look there. So we already have a number of organizations, like I said, who are EVAL certified, and we would love to see all of your organizations join them. So feel free to take a look at all these. These are listed on the EVAL website. And as you can see, it's a variety of types of organizations. We have universities, cities, private entities, really all across the board. So if you're feeling just jazzed and ready to go, you can navigate to evalcertification.org and get started on that certification. You can also sign the Charge at Work pledge at chargeatwork.org/pledge, and connect with Forth on social media for more information about events like these and other things related to EVAL. With that, I think we're on to Q&A.
Yeah, thank you, Emily, very much. That's a great presentation. Yeah, we've got several questions, and we're going to certainly try to get to all of them here. So let's start with the first one. What are the main benefits of getting this certification for an organization if they're already actively installed EV chargers in local offices all over the US?
So I'm assuming when they say they're referring to their own organization, and that's fantastic. We'd love to see that already happening. And really the main benefits would be you get recognition for all this hard work you're doing, and you get to really show future employers or future employees and other entities in your community that this is something that matters, and you have the documentation, the certification to back it up.
Okay. The next question is EVAL associated with other certification programs, to gain points outside of the EVAL as well? For example, Great Place to Work certification.
It's a good question as well. We don't have formal agreements or things like that in place with other certifications. However, for example, with a LEED certification, you do get points for having EV charging. And so if you do the work to get the EVAL certification, the work you've done on EV charging could also apply to that LEED certification, for example.
Is there thank you. Is there an approximate cost for certifications in the future so we're able to better plan for future projects?
Another good question. Thank you. We don't know exactly yet how we're going to put out that cost, but that would be a good reason to make sure you're following along with Forth, because they'll be the ones to announce that information. And if you have sites ready to go now or sites that you have planning for in the next couple months, it would be a great idea to get the eval certification before that November 1st deadline.
I think you mentioned earlier, like an example of a medical clinic with multiple locations. They don't all have to apply at the same time, do they? I mean, they can just apply when they're ready. Some of them might be more ready than others.
Exactly. Yeah. So the beauty of the site-by-site design of the certification is that they are individual and unique. And so if you have one clinic that has a couple EV chargers and is just really ready to go, you can certify that clinic. And as others follow suit, they can do so in their own due time. But yeah, it's individual site by site. And so it's really flexible when it comes to that.
Great. Who can or should apply to eval for an organization? Is there somebody within a particular role within an organization better off leading the charge, if you will?
Yes, we love to lead the charge. That would usually be sustainability managers, facilities managers, folks that have the authority to sign off or verify projects on the at the work site. So we see kind of higher up in the organization is it's good to make sure you have that support. However, any employee for an organization can log in and begin that eval certification process. It's just always a good idea, to have your bosses sign off on things, in my experience. But it's really set up so as long as you have the information about your organization's sustainability plans, facilities, things, that sort of thing, that you can go through the certification.
Okay. Two, I guess it's one is, how long does the certification questionnaire take to complete?
That is a good
Like to
question
kind
as
of
well.
respond also to management, how much level of effort is this going to take us?
Mm-hmm. If you have the information in front of you, it can take as little as 10 to 20 minutes. If you have to go out and kind of talk to maybe the person who manages your parking garage and figure out how many spaces you have that are EV ready or have EV charging, that can take longer. But you do have the opportunity, as Alexandra just put in the chat, to review the questions in advance. And so that's something you can take a look at, figure out what you know, what you need to find out. But once you have that information collected, the questionnaire is relatively straightforward and easy to complete.
Okay. If they're checking to see if there are any other questions, I think we answered all the ones that have come in and a couple more. Oh, one of the questions they have is, if a fee is going to be charged, how long is this program going to be around? Is this going to be around for a while? Is that the intent, or is this and it kind of get it started and then move on?
We really aim for this to be a durable, ongoing certification because the need for workplace charging is only going to increase. We're seeing more and more EVs on the road every year. And so workplace charging is going to become more and more part of how we work, how we get to work. And so eval will plan to be a part of that for a significant period of time, for sure.
Okay. And Emily, if they need to get in touch with you?
Yes, I think Christine just put my email in the chat.
Good, yeah. Just
So
to make sure
definitely, yeah, reach out if you have any questions, want more information, just anything about eval, let me know, and I'll be happy to help you out.
Okay. Are there any more questions from anybody else? In a minute. We're going to pop up in the chat a link to a short evaluation, that eval evaluation, I guess if you would call it. And we'd appreciate your feedback and reaction to this as we try to continue to do this. We have several more of these planned in the next month for different regions. If you have a question that occurs to you and you want to ask it live at one of the other events, please join us. But I think the local incentive portion of obviously changes based on the area, but much of the rest of the information is certainly applicable to everybody. So you're welcome to join us. And if you can go to bestworkplaces.org/events to register for those other events as well. Again, Christine did add the short evaluation link there. If you would do that for us, we'd greatly appreciate it. Well, it's not seeing any other questions. We'll give you back some time today. Thank you all, everybody, for joining. Thank you very much, Emily, for an excellent presentation. It's really a pretty exciting program. I know we're Best Workplaces for Commuters. We're really keen on making sure this helps our members as well, too. And I think they would be very interested in this.
Yep, that's fantastic. Thank you, Phil.
Right. Thank you. Well, with that, I'll say goodbye. Everybody have a great day. So long.
Goodbye.
Bye.